Hey, howdy, hey, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we're going to be reviewing RuPaul's Drag Race All-Star Season 6, Episode 3. So if that sounds good to you, make sure to hit that like button, comment down below what you thought about this episode, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Come join the Amateur Hour community. And without further ado, let's get this video started. Alright, so let's get right into it. Obviously, for today's episode, the queens had to put together a commercial, basically, in groups for different advertising campaigns. And it was overall a really good episode. I really enjoyed this. I'm going to go ahead and get started from the beginning of this episode, though, and we will be working our way through. I'll be going ahead and giving you my thoughts and my opinions. So, let's get right on into it, like I said. Alright, first I want to talk about, obviously, when the queens walked back into the workroom after the elimination of Jiggly Caliente. I'm still upset about this elimination because Jiggly was one of my favorite queens in this season from the beginning. I love Jiggly Caliente, and I wish we had gotten to see more of her in the actual show. Of course, there seems to be some sort of thing going on behind the curtain, basically. And we will be eventually finding out what this game within the game is, so we will probably be getting to see Jiggly again at some point. I'm not quite sure when they will be bringing that up. I was hoping they would be bringing that out in episode 3 and slowly, like, each episode type thing. But it seems like we're probably going to get one overall episode for this, if I were to guess. Anyways, so the queens walk back into the workroom after Jiggly's elimination, and they end up going through the box with all the lipsticks and finding out who everyone voted for. After going through it, they realize that, basically, there's one other person who voted for Yara, and everyone else voted for Jiggly. And it turns out that the one person who actually ended up voting for Yara, other than Jiggly, was Trinity K. Bonet. So there's some sort of drama being put out there with, Yara and Trinity, because obviously the week before, Yara voted for Trinity, you know, there's some trying to make some drama there. I do want to point out a few things with this time, specifically with, first with Ginger. I thought it was interesting how Ginger had that one moment when she felt really bad for voting for Jiggly, because obviously Jiggly and Ginger are good friends, and Ginger felt really bad because she didn't want to have to put her friend through that. She felt bad about it, but at the same time, she didn't feel like it would be right to vote for Yara just because she's friends with Jiggly. In some ways, I think this might be a strategic move, because if you think about it, it's at the beginning of the, obviously beginning of the season, so it's trying to set up that she's gonna vote for based on track record. So, like, if her track record ends up being better than someone else's, then Ginger can say, I still voted for a track record, let's try to keep that going, if that makes sense. I don't know, maybe I'm reading into that too much, but that's one sort of potential thing with that. Then there, at one point, Kylie Sonique actually asked Trinity, did he vote for Yara because she almost tried to take you out? And I really appreciated Kylie in this moment, because Kylie was really actually asking the questions I wanted asked as an audience, as a viewer. I felt like Kylie was speaking for us as viewers in that moment. So I really enjoyed that moment. And then Trinity is basically like, oh, well, Jiggly, actually used her time wisely. She didn't just throw it together the last minute like Yara did. But in the end, you have to still admit that Yara had a better outfit made than Jiggly. So, I mean, ultimately, it made sense for Jiggly to go home, but I'm still upset about it. Anyways. So that was all that day. They're all going through the lipsticks. That was it. Also, congratulations again. Let me just go ahead and say congratulations again to Raja for winning last week. That was such a well-deserved win. I am falling in love more and more with Raja O'Hara every single week. Like, this season is very good for Raja, and I'm really, really enjoying her. Alright, now we're going to get into the next day in the workroom, where the queens walk in and they find Jiggly's message, and they have to wipe it off. It's really sad because, obviously, they all love Jiggly, everyone loves Jiggly, and it's really sad to see her go. But it's a competition. At some point, someone's gonna have to leave, so I mean, like, there's that as well. Anyways, so they're wiping off the message, talking about the competition, how they are feeling about everything, checking the temperature with Yara and Trinity, basically, at one point. That's what happens. Then RuPaul walks in and introduces the main challenge. That's right, we are not getting a mini challenge this week. But for the main challenge, the queens are going to have to get into groups and do commercials, like I said. First, they arrange in order of height, which I thought was an interesting point, because you could tell right from the beginning that Eureka's obviously the tallest and Ginger's the shortest, so it's interesting seeing them next to each other and then having to go. Anyways, I thought that was interesting and interesting way to make the order. Wow, I was struggling with my words there. I'm gonna go ahead and go through the groups now. First I'm going to start with the shortest, because I'm the shortest. I would have been the shortest, so I'm going to start with them. Anyways, the shortest group is obviously going to be Ginger, Akira, Silky, and Jan. And they are going to be doing a Rent-A-Queen video, where they have to do a video advertising for a Rent-A-Queen service, sort of thing. We'll get into that next. Then we get to the next group, which is the medium height group, basically, which is going to be Raja, Trinity, K. Bonet, Yara Sophia, oh, and Pandora Box. Pandora Box is also in that group. Wow, I almost forgot about Pandora. That's embarrassing. Alright, next, and they're going to be doing a, like I said, they're doing a fixing queen service, basically, like Olivia Pope type thing. They're there to fix things, I guess. And then we get to our tall group, people group, which of course is going to be the Exorcist Queen, Exercise, Exorcist type thing. Anyways, and this group is going to be Kylie Sonique Love, Scarlet Envy, and Eureka. So that is the final group. So they all get into their groups, and then they have to start writing their scripts, writing their skits, planning it all out, planning out how they're going to do everything. And let's go ahead and get right into it. First, they show the Fix-It Queens, obviously. And Pandora is kind of coming in like, hey, I know what I'm doing here. I've written commercials before. I can do this. And so they're sort of well organized, and they all collaborate together, and they all do a really good job, honestly, putting it all together. Like, it's very much, like I said, it's very much a collaborative effort, which I really enjoyed to see. They all come up with their own ideas. At one point, they address the drama between Yara and Trinity, even though it's not really much drama. And they're both like, well, we're in the same group together, let's work together, let's make this work and make it a good scene, basically. Which I think is the appropriate attitude to bring in to a group project, especially if you don't get along with certain people. Just be like, hey, we're here together, let's work, let's get this done. I thought that was nice to see. Next, we're going to talk about the Exercise group, which is, of course, like I said, is Kylie, Scarlet, and Eureka. Kylie seems a little bit nervous, because I don't think Kylie Sonique is very much of an acting queen, if that makes sense, or an improv queen. She likes more of the physical aspects of drag, I guess. Dancing, performing, all that sort of aspects. And so Kylie's a little bit nervous, I think, but it works out, obviously, because she's with Scarlet and Eureka, who both have really good personalities, and they all seem to work together pretty well, so I think that's a good group. And then we finally go through the Rent-A-Queen group, where they all seem to be working together, but it seems almost as if they're all coming up with so many ideas, it's hard to organize, or at least that's the story they're trying to set up at this point, if that makes sense. I also want to talk specifically about Silky in this group, because I felt really bad for Silky, because I feel like Silky's still so stuck in her head about what happened on season 11 in terms of the fan response and overall response to her on season 11. And I'm like, I get it, I understand that you don't want to come off as too pushy, you don't want to come off as too much, but at the same time, I'm like, Silky, it's a new season, you know? Ultimately, it is a new season with new queens. Everyone is coming back. It's not like your first time on the show, if that makes sense. So I feel like it is sort of okay for you to put out your opinion, say what you're thinking, because if you don't, ultimately your group will suffer, because, again, collaboration, you know? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Please let me know what you thought down below. Now we get to the green screen part of the show, where they're all actually filming the scripts. We're gonna, again, go ahead in order. First, we're going to talk about, obviously, the Fix-It Queen group. They all do really well. I don't think there were any major issues as they were filming. They all seemed to have fun. Again, Michelle and Ross seemed to collaborate well with them as well. Yeah, no, I think overall that group worked really well together, and I don't think there were any issues. Next, we're going to talk about, obviously, the Exorcist group. I thought this was a fun group. It was interesting to see Eureka break a bed. That was interesting. I do think Kylie was struggling a little bit. I think Kylie was getting in her head a little bit about everything. So I was glad to see her overcome that, if that makes sense, and really just still shine and still do well. So that was nice to see. Other than that, it seemed fine. Like, there weren't two major issues, anything too big for that group. Then we get to the last group, obviously, which, again, is the Rent-A-Queen group with Jan, Ginger, Kyria, and Silky, who all seem to get along well, but it does seem like they are trying to do too many things at once. And especially Silky. Silky seems to be struggling a little bit with it, and I think, again, Silky is also getting into her own head about this because of all the stuff that happened on season 11, and Silky doesn't want to come off that way again. But at the same time, like I said earlier, it's a new season. You know, it's your opportunity to really show growth and really show that you are an all-star, really, here to compete. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Please let me know what you thought down below. So Silky's struggling a little bit, and I think Akira struggled a little bit too. Again, these are the storylines they are trying to produce for us, so I don't know what it would have been like if I were actually there, if that makes sense. But those are my thoughts. Overall, though, I thought it was a good part. I really enjoyed the green screen part. I think they all had fun, and yeah. That was about it for that day. Then we get into the elimination day where the queens are all walking back into the workroom. Again, Silky's getting nervous. Kylie seems a little bit nervous, and so does Akira. Those are the queens who are especially nervous. Everyone else seems pretty confident, pretty comfortable with everything. Ginger and Jan talk. That was about it. I don't really feel like talking about the getting ready part too much. I just really want to get to the runway and the skits now. First, I want to talk about RuPaul's look. RuPaul looks gorgeous. Excuse me. I love this purple on RuPaul. I think RuPaul looks stunning. I love that outfit, the makeup. It all looks really, really good. The one thing I will say is I'm not crazy about the earrings. Again, maybe that's just me. Please let me know what you thought down below. For the guest judge this week, we have Tia Mowry. I love getting to see Tia Mowry. I remember growing up and watching Sister Sister, so I love getting to see her on the show. I thought that was fun. And Ross and Michelle both look great. Like, yeah, that's about it. They look good. Good job. Yay. Now we're going to get into the runway. The runway theme this week was Redemption Runway. I'm going to go ahead and give you some of my thoughts and opinions on this one. I will be doing a more in-depth fashion review later this week, so make sure you're tuning in for that. But let's get right into it. I'll give you some of my highlights from this challenge. I really enjoyed Raja's look. I thought Raja looked really, really great, and I love that she incorporated the burlap as almost like a shawl type thing, whereas obviously in season 11, the Farm to Runway, she used burlap to make pants. But I really enjoyed this look. I thought Raja looked really, really great. I also want to talk a little bit about Ginger's look. I understand Ginger was going for the futuristic drag runway, but I don't necessarily think it was the most successful look. I do feel like she could have done this a little bit differently and stepped it up a little bit more. I'm nervous for Ginger in her runways because I don't think her runways are the strongest, in my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts again down below. Let's talk about Jan now. I like Jan's look. Again, I liked it. It's just something about it was like, I felt like it was missing something. I don't know what. Maybe it's the material I wasn't crazy about. I understand she was doing her entrance look. I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts again. And also I want to talk a little bit about doing looks to redo your promo like Yara and Trinity did. I get it, but also I feel like for the Redemption runway, I would have loved to see them redo their own runways versus a promo look. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Overall, I think they all did a pretty good job. I will say I also was not a big fan of Pandora's look. I don't know what it was. It felt a little bit baggy on her, especially around the midsection. It felt like she could have tightened it up or made the bottom bigger, maybe to add more of a silhouette, more of a shape to the silhouette, I guess. More hourglassy shape versus just like that. It felt a little bit, I don't know. I wasn't crazy about it. It felt baggy. I really liked Scarlett's look. I thought Scarlett Envy did a really good job with her entrance look recreation. Yeah. Overall, I thought the runway was pretty fun. Akira and Silky also looked great. Like, everyone looked really, really good, like I said. Now we're going to get into the judging and all the things. Obviously, they watched the skits. I'll do that first, actually. For the skits, I really liked the Fix It Bitch. I thought that was a really cute group. I really liked how they all worked together. It all worked really well. I have pictures over here of the groups. Next, we're going to talk about the Exorcist group. I thought it was fun. It felt a little bit boring to me. I don't know. I would love to hear your thoughts down below about this group. But I can definitely see why they were safe. Yeah. And next we'll talk about the Rent-A-Queen group, obviously. I like the concept, but I feel like they were trying to do too many things at once. It was so many different stories going on in one short little commercial, where you're almost trying to make it too complicated for it to be a commercial. And yeah, now obviously the winning group is going to be the Fix It Bitch group. So congratulations to the Fix It group. That was well deserved. And the winner this weekend, of course, is going to be Trinity K. Bonet. So congratulations to Trinity for winning this challenge. And they're all safe, so they get to leave. Then we find out how Ru is going to do the judging. Ru decides to judge them as groups still. So the Rent-A-Queen group is ultimately going to be the bottom this week, which means Ginger, Jan, Akira, and Silky are in the bottom. And that means that the exercising group is all safe. So Kylie, Scarlett, and Eureka are safe. I thought that was fair, I guess. I don't know. I wish they had judged it individually, because I don't really think it's fair to put Ginger or in the bottom. I do agree with the rest of them being in the bottom, but I think Ginger did well enough for her to be safe. And for the other group, I think they did well. I don't think there are any major problems. Yeah. Now the queens are all going to have to go back and deliberate and do all the things. I want to talk a little bit about Trinity and her interviews with every single person in the groups. It seemed like Trinity was almost saying the same thing to every single person, where she was like, oh, don't worry, I'm not going to eliminate you. And like, I get it, you don't want to be... But also I feel like you need to be honest with them. I don't know. Because I feel like that's going to come back and bite her in the butt a little bit next week. Maybe with her whole like, oh, don't worry, you're fine. I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts again down below. And then all the queens vote. That's about it. When we get back to the main stage, I want to talk about this specific moment, because I thought this was a gag. I'm going to put a picture over here, picture, video, whatever it's going to be, I'm not quite sure, of when the lip sync assassin enters. Laganja Estranja, come on All Stars 6. Let's get sickening. I thought that was a gag. Her dropping into the splits on the entrance. I loved that. I thought it was amazing. I love Laganja. And I thought that was a great entrance for a lip sync assassin. Like, it was a gag, you know? It was a gag. Anyways, so Laganja and Trinity K. Bonet end up lip syncing against each other. I thought this was really fun because obviously they were both in the same season, and I would have loved getting to see them lip sync against each other. They were both very good lip syncers. And they both lip synced to Physical by Dua Lipa. I thought it was a good lip sync. I will say, I think, in my opinion, Trinity K. Bonet won, because I just think she was serving more of the lip sync itself, whereas Laganja was doing more splits and more stunts, and I get it, but at the same time, I'm like, the song doesn't necessarily call for all those stunts. I don't know. Love to hear your thoughts down below. Obviously, in the end, though, RuPaul decides to have Laganja Estranja win the lip sync, which means Trinity K. Bonet is safe. And Laganja Estranja pulls out the lipstick for the group, what the group voted for. And in the end, the group voted for Silky, Nutmeg, Ganache to sashay away. This was honestly one of the most upsetting moments that I've seen so far. Because I love Silky, and I feel like Silky, this was just a really sad moment to see her leave. Like, she just seems like such a kind person, and having Silky leave just was really sad. But I didn't think I would fall in love with Silky so much as I did either. And it's just really sad to see her go. It's been sad to see everyone go, honestly, on this season. Like, I love this cast. And my thoughts go out to Silky. Like, I love Silky. I'll send some love to Silky. Such a great queen. And I would love to get to see her again. I'm sure we will later in the season. They're going to do some sort of gag. But we'll have to wait and see. Anyways, that does bring me to the end of my review. If you enjoyed these videos, make sure to hit that like button, comment down below what you thought about this episode, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Come join the Sandwicher Hour community, and don't forget to follow me on social media at Sandwicher Hour on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And yeah, I will be back here tomorrow for another video. Bye guys!